Hi, welcome back to Josie Chats Wrestling. We're back this Tuesday to discuss last night's Monday Night Raw, coming off a very impactful Elimination Chamber. I'm joined by my co-host, none other than Steve from the channel SCW. How are you this afternoon, Steve?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. It's good to be back here on Josie Chats Wrestling. Lots to discuss with Monday Night Raw, some big talking points this week, and it's great to be back here. Thanks for having us on.
It's always good to have you here. Always good to hear your opinion. We've got a lot to talk about coming off the pay-per-view and obviously Monday Night Raw. So let's start to it. Let's get to it. So Raw this week, very exciting. Obviously got a new champion starting the show. It opens up with Miz TV. Miz is out there. He gives some great name drops of people such as Triple H, ex-champions. Bobby Lashley's going to be named. We then have sort of Lashley and MVP come out. It ends up like MVP trying to sort of sweet talk his way out of the situation. Lashley says because John Morrison cost him the title last night, he wants a world title shot. It then ends up with MVP sort of saying you're going to have to give him a shot. Miz then gets out of it by sneaking out to a certain point, and then Lashley basically says you've got 1 hour to give me the title shot. That's awesome, which is really, really kind of funny. What were your thoughts of the segment?
Yeah, I really actually enjoyed the segment looking at it because, I mean, Miz obviously, as we expected, would kick off Monday Night Raw, would be his annoying self there. And probably one of the better Miz TVs we've seen for a while. This is more of what I want to see from the Miz rather than seeing some of the bad comedy, if you want, that we've been getting in some of the recent weeks and months. But yeah, I thought it was pretty well put together. I like the fact that MVP Lashley, wants to get that championship. I love the fact that, MVP explained to us last night what had went on. Not that we probably couldn't put two and two together, but it all made perfect logical sense in the storytelling. And the fact that Lashley, said to himself, you've got 1 hour. I love the fact that he gave an alternative reality TV show if Miz was not going to be involved. I thought that was quite amusing. I think everything was pretty well done here. I mean, obviously MVP, fantastic mouthpiece, but Lashley, soft when were heard.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was really, really good. I think the positive about it was the fact that you're creating interest straight away of what's going to happen later, guys, in the show. You've got the clock there ticking over, so you're creating an angle further on in the night. You're really getting Lashley over. Lashley should be after the world title after dropping the United States title the night before, so that was really, really clever. I really kind of enjoyed it. We then kind of go forward. We've got a backstage segment. New United States champion Riddle's there. We'll at your house party. He's going on about the eagle on the belt, saying he known a friend called Travis, and then he goes off on a scooter. What were your kind of thoughts of this?
As you know from me by now, I can't stand Riddle when he speaks. I think Riddle should be involved in a match actually on Raw, and if he loses, he's not allowed to talk for a month. I think it would make segments a lot better for me on Raw. But yeah, I mean, looking at the match itself that he had with John Morrison, which you actually called on your Elimination Chamber review show, you said that you'd like to see them two mix up on Raw. I thought that was a pretty good in-ring match. I much prefer Riddle wrestling than talking. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've got a couple of things with this. So the backstage segment, it was okay. It's Riddle being a joke again, which I'm not a fan of. I know that's his character. You would have thought they'd given the United States title, he'd then go on to be a bit more serious. In terms of the match, what a fantastic match. I really enjoyed this. It was great to see two hardworking wrestlers get this time on television. And I was really happy they had the rematch. Obviously, Riddle got the win. There's some great spots in this, including the Spanish Fly. Loads of close calls, but Riddle retained the belt. And this was a really good move. I think WWE really need to do a job of keeping Riddle beating veterans to get over. And I think it's great to see him with the United States title. For me, I really enjoyed this. I was impressed. This was a great start to Raw. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's almost now we feel that the United States Championship division can be a division again because Lashley was so dominant. He'd outgrown it. Anyone that was going to take the belt off him had to be of a real, up and coming high prestige, almost someone at a world title level. But now you can have the hard-working person's title again, that hard-working section of the division, those sort of mid-carders that come and give you great matches throughout the night. And Riddle is a great candidate to hold that championship. And like you say, they're defeating someone like John Morrison. Little fun fact for you, actually, by the way. John Morrison was Riddle's second opponent on the main roster when he came to SmackDown last year. So these two have wrestled before, and it does show that they have great chemistry when they are in ring together. And obviously with the same result, Riddle coming out on top. And yeah, I mean, for me, as I said, Riddle in ring does tick a lot of the boxes because he's great in ring. And now he's got the United States Championship. I still question if he holds it long term, but I do think that Riddle could do good things if given momentum with that championship.
Cheers for the fun fact. That's a really interesting anecdote. It's great to hear that they've had a match before. But as I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with all this belt. This is a great chance to build him up. If they drop the comedy, this guy could be a great United States champion. He can certainly bring a bit more, a bit more technical ability. He can mix it up with anybody. And I think this is the start of something good, so that's for sure. We're then going to go forward. We then obviously had a Virginette for Rhea Ripley coming to Raw. So we finally know where she is, following weeks and weeks of sort of teasing of where she's going to be. She's coming to Monday Night Raw, following a fantastic showing at the Royal Rumble. I'm really, really happy. I think this is a great move. Monday Night Raw, women's division's lacking. So it's a great move. I know you're one of the biggest advocates. What were your thoughts, Steve, of the Virginette?
Yeah, really good. It's good to see she's not been forgotten and she is coming to Raw. Me and you've discussed the pros and cons of both shows, and I don't think either show is a loser for getting. I think she could be a big superstar on both brands. Raw arguably needs her right now, where SmackDown doesn't. I mean, Rhea Ripley can get herself inserted into the championship picture quite early on. I don't know if WrestleMania may be too soon, but definitely she can make herself as a top contender quite quickly. There is a lot of talent in the Raw Women's division, but they are not used to the best of their abilities of what they could do with that division. Rhea Ripley could come in. I mean, obviously, matches against Charlotte makes a lot of sense because of the fact that the history of WrestleMania last year. Asuka, of course, Raw Women's Champion. Shayna Baszler, who she beat for NXT Women's Championship. There's a lot of great matches that could be there. And let's not forget, she eliminated Alexa Bliss from the Royal Rumble. That could be a potential WrestleMania direction.
What a fantastic point you made there. I think really, really good. I think the fact that, as you said, the history there, the Royal Rumble with Alexa, that's something I'd like to see. In terms of where she goes next, I think for me, she's got that potential. She could be as big as Bianca Belair in a year's time. I think she's got as much ability as Bianca Belair. In terms of sort of recommendations, she obviously got a recommendation today from Mick Foley on Twitter saying, WWE, don't muck this up. When you're endorsed by such a legend, I think it can only go too well. But WWE, please don't muck it up. I think she's going to be great. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, she's a star in the making, and she's got time on her side. She's 24 years old. Been following her for like 4 years now, and you've just seen her character evolve, her in-ring work improve, and she's just got more and more over throughout the time, whether it's been NXT UK, NXT, now Royal Rumble show, and yeah, it's time to make a statement. It's time to change the game.
Yes, it is definitely. We then had a fun backstage segment. We had the Miz complaining to Adam Pearce about what Lashley wants to do. Pearce asked Miz if there was a deal. Miz said this wasn't in writing. Pearce said Miz needs to step up and take on all challenges. Miz wants him to delay for when the time was right. Pearce said he respects whatever Miz decides to do, but he has to decide soon because the clock is ticking. And then obviously Pearce left while the Miz is checking his phone. For me, this was a fun segment. It creates interest in the main angle of the show. What were your thoughts of this interaction from Miz and Pearce?
Yeah, it was quite fun, to be fair. I mean, Adam Pearce obviously has the authority, despite not being GM, to actually make a statement on how this should go down. But the fact was, he's almost to a degree of, well, if you've cashed in and we've seen what happened, if you've made your bed, maybe you should go lie in it. You know, it felt a little bit like, Miz, you're on your own. I'm not going to be the one to dig you out of this. So I thought it was quite fun for what it was.
Yeah, I think it was definitely quite fun. We then obviously had this match. It was Retribution versus New Day, Satiba and Mace, with Mustafa Ali, Slapjack and Reckoning. Reckoning's back, which is great to see. This was an okay match. Obviously, New Day get the win. Kofi Kingston picks up the pinfall on T-Bar after the Paradise Kick. So obviously the Kofi Kingston push seems to be up. Following his elimination around the Orton Elimination Chamber, he got the win here. After the match, it then leads to Mustafa Ali barking orders at Retribution. It looks like there may be some dissension. What was your thoughts on the match and the aftermath?
I thought the match was okay. I don't think there's really too much of detail. Like you say, there Kofi Kingston keeps the momentum. I think if they are going to do something with an aftermath with Retribution like we see after the match, then the New Day was the right team to go over. It's just a shame because, you know, Retribution, they are portrayed like they're the next Nexus, but unfortunately they're more like the core that were on SmackDown, the break-off group, really. It's not really kind of panning out for them that well. And now it feels that we could be in for a breakup here. I think Mustafa Ali has been, you know, venting his frustration for a number of weeks now. And I think now it's starting to come to the forefront. The question is, I mean, from here is with Retribution, are we going to get where they break up? Are they going to, you know, get new reinforcements like a Nexus and revamp like they did back in the day? Or is this going to carry on for another 3 or 4 months where Mustafa Ali is just annoyed? It's one of 3 options. Personally, for me, I want the breakup. I think it's been, you know, it's an experiment. It's failed. and we can bring people back eventually one by one, whether they go to NXT or stay on Raw, and they can beat their regular gimmicks. Because there was nothing wrong with Dominik Dijakovic before. There was nothing wrong with Mia Yim. If you want, you can have Mason and Slapjack, under their real names, Shane Thorne and as a tag team or whatever going forward. And we can break Retribution up, because it's not working, and it hasn't for a long, long time.
Yeah, I agree with the points you make. I think the thing with it, as you said, is they're at the point now where they can't go back. Then they're not going to fix this stable, unfortunately. Obviously, they're just kind of a joke, and the wrestlers underneath these gimmicks do need to repackage. For me, it's getting to the point now where they need to attack Ali and then split. And if you can get T-Bar back to Dominik Dijakovic with a repackaging, he's going to be the one person other than Mia Yim coming out of this stable that I think could go somewhere. Because Ali is great. I think he could do something as well. But for me, the only way that they're going to save this, if they can, is the reinforcements. But I can't see WWE investing in this. They should have reinvested months ago in reinforcements if they're going to do that. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. If they're going to bring more people in, is going to revamp it for a couple of weeks, and then they go back to losing again, and then Mustafa Ali gets annoyed in it again. I agree with you. I think, like you said, they break them up. I mean, Dominik Dijakovic, he could go straight into the US title picture. There's no argument with that. Mia Yim, I mean, we're crying for people to face Asuka on a week-on-week basis without a need to be in tag team wrestling. Mia Yim would be a great candidate because, her gimmick as she was really good, and those two would definitely stick around on Raw. I'm not sure about the other two. They'd probably go back down to NXT, but for me, I just feel that it's the best thing for all parties at this point.
I agree. I think I definitely agree with you. We then obviously had this fun segment. We obviously had Adam Pearce kind of come out. The Miz and Bobby Lashley, this was the segment. So Adam Pearce comes out. He's in the ring. It said it's been nearly an hour. The ultimatum was up. Adam Pearce introduced Bobby Lashley. Lashley was in his sort of ring gear. He's got MVP leather suit. The Miz made his entrance with a suit with his WWE title. John Morrison's with him as well. So all five guys have got the microphone. Pearce told the Miz he's got an obligation to give Lashley a decision. The Miz said he's made his decision, but he needs more time. Lashley told Miz to stop stalling, and he's wasting Lashley's time, and saying it's like wasting money. This then ends up kind of with them trading insults. We then obviously have former Universal Champion Braun Strowman come out. Braun Strowman says if anybody's getting the W Championship, it should be him. Then from nowhere, we get a cameo of Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon's back once again. This then leads up with people squabbling. It does end up eventually with basically Shane McMahon saying that Lashley will face Strowman. If Lashley wins, it'll be a one-on-one match next week. If Strowman wins, it'll be a triple threat. What were your thoughts of this segment?
I have to give props where it's due to WWE, because I think they did really well in doing multiple storylines in one segment. There's a lot of flavour in this segment. Obviously, you've got The Miz as the new champion, along with Lashley, the ultimatum. I enjoyed the clock, the countdown. It felt like a really fast hour when it got to that point. And then obviously with Adam Pearce, the undermining from Shane McMahon again, that did happen once again. You're not running a tight ship. Let me take care of this. The Miz praying for the championship match to be next week. Well, he got with The Miz and Shane McMahon. Could there be something there where Shane is almost being protecting The Miz here? They are former rivals after all. But of course, I mean, Braun Strowman as well and Shane McMahon, that feels like it's a WrestleMania direction currently waiting to happen at the moment. So there's lots of different storylines that run through one segment. So for me overall, I think this was a job well done. But I think the most interesting point, The Miz was backed into a corner like he felt that he had to almost wrestle that evening. He got off the hook. He got his opportunity to save it for a week. The only problem was then he realized he may have to face two people rather than one, which got a still face of The Miz, saying that it was by a Fiend for Followers, I believe, saying that look you've got when you realize you're a transitional champion. Yeah,
I would say this was a really well done segment. I think they did a great job of getting everyone on camera. Shane McMahon appearing was a nice cameo. Their third round up in the ante. This was unannounced. It felt very like the old days where we didn't know what was coming next. I really like the return of Braun Strowman. I really kind of enjoyed this. You're creating interest in the main event. And at this point in the show, I was really kind of excited. I felt that they really added interest. And the fact is, they've not even got Drew McIntyre here yet. It's still very, very exciting. Interested to see where this kind of goes. But we have got that main event later on the show. Have you got anything else you want to add?
No, I'm ready to go to the next segment. I agree with all your points.
We then had this Tornado tag team match. Obviously, tag team champions, Hurt Business, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander versus Lucha House Party. This was obviously a non-title match. This was okay. It was unusual to see a Tornado match, not seen one of them for a while. Obviously, the Hurt Business get the win. It was a clear and decisive win for the tag team champions, so it was sensible to do. It was okay, this match. I thought it did what it needed to do. Nothing kind of outstanding, but it was a good filler. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, really. There's nothing really noteworthy so much from this match, but it was a good match. And this was a reminder when I was watching this of why 205 was so popular to watch 2 or 3 years ago, why you had to watch that show back then. The Lucha House Party, Cedric Alexander, and also, I mean, earlier in the show, Mustafa Ali, all these were on 205 Live back in the day. And there is some great talent that comes from that show. But I thought this was a fun match, but it was the right result. I'm just sort of pleased there isn't really dissension at the moment, or not so much of it with Cedric and Shelton. Hopefully they've dropped that now.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think the only concern I have, Steve, really is there a lack of challenges to them for the tag team titles? It seems to be pretty sort of short of teams at the moment.
Yeah, it feels almost like if you're going to do it, the New Day are going to go back in. Probably they want to save them for WrestleMania.
Yeah, it does. I think you're on the money there. We then obviously had Damian Priest with the 24/7 champion, Bad Bunny, facing Angel Garza. This was an okay match. Obviously, Damian Priest has got his new finisher called Hit the Lights, which I think is far better name. He then gets the pinfall. This was an okay match. I think Damian Priest clearly getting that rub from Bad Bunny. And I thought this was an okay match. It's great to see Angel Garza on TV, but this was filler. But Damian Priest continues his win streak. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think this was pretty good. I have a slight nitpick in this match, if you want, and I think Bad Bunny's been fantastic for Damian Priest. So I don't want my people to, be mixed up with what I say here. But obviously, you look at the backstage segment with R-Truth, where he wanted to try and get involved, and Damian Priest's like, "You don't even bother, mate. You're not got a chance with this one." And R-Truth backed off. That's great because Bad Bunny is a champion. He's bringing legitimacy to the 24/7 championship. But Damian Priest also is the guy that, almost is protecting Bad Bunny. He's getting over by being next to this big celebrity. But in ring during the match with Garza, there was a moment where Garza was on top of Damian Priest and actually focused his direction on Bad Bunny, where Bad Bunny then became the full focus of the segment, which took away from Damian Priest. So it's a slight nitpick from here, but I want WWE to use Damian Priest to actually get the rub of his time with Bad Bunny and not the other way around. It shouldn't be just that the celebrity gets the full focus on TV. We need that celebrity to do good to our superstars, especially with someone who's not been on the main roster very long like Damian Priest. He's got a lot to benefit, a lot to gain, and I see for definite a future United States champion, perhaps even higher up the card. Damian Priest has got a lot of the tools there that can make him a top contender on Monday Night Raw. And I agree with you. It's a good change, by the way, to his new finishing move.
Definitely, I think it's interesting to see the alignment of how sort of protected he's been. This is a really good transition from NXT to the main roster, so I'm a fan of it. I'm interested to see where it leads. Obviously, it's probably going to lead to this tag match at WrestleMania, we believe, which will be Damian Priest, Bad Bunny facing maybe Miz and Morrison, maybe Garza and Morrison. We'll see, but I think that's pretty nailed on. Would you agree?
Yeah, we will indeed. Yeah. I mean, the question is just quickly, while we're on Bad Bunny very quickly, you look back in the old days with like Mike Tyson being in WWE back in the Attitude Era, and he was aligned with the likes of, in segments that were the main event of the show. Do you think Bad Bunny should be focused with more of a headliners in the show rather than Miz and Morrison? Or is that why the Miz has become WWE champion? Because for casuals outside of WWE, probably don't know so much about the Miz. Do you think that makes it a good move that he's been made as champion?
I think it's clever. I think the thing with it is it's great to have that alignment. Obviously, it'll be an ex-world champion probably by the time we get to WrestleMania. I just think it's one of them things. It's anything they do with Bad Bunny at the moment, proven by the merchandise sales. It's a great move by WWE. I didn't really see it at the beginning, but you can't really argue with the facts of how over this. This is a guy that loves wrestling. He's a great addition. He's not there just to sort of take the money and go. He seems to be genuinely interested in investing in what he's doing. We'll be interested to see what happens to Miz in that respect, but I think it could be fun at WrestleMania. I'll be interested to see what the payoff is, though, at WrestleMania, whether he's going to be the one that beats the Miz or the other way around. I'm just interested to see what the end game is with this.
Yeah, me too as well. It's going to be interesting to see how it's going to go down and also how someone will eventually get the...
Oh, sorry, Steve, you broke up. If I just ask you just to sort of say the last part again, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I just said it'll be interesting to see how that match will go down at WrestleMania. Like you say, if will Bad Bunny get the actual win or not. It'll be interesting to see as well how they'll get the 24/7 championship off of him as well.
Yeah, it will be definitely. I'm now going to take you, Steve. We're going to go all the way back, nearly 30 years, and we're going back to May 23rd, 1992. We've got Randy Orton there. He's doing a backstage promo, and then he's talking about how he couldn't win because of Alexa Bliss. Randy Orton in 92. How does that work? And then all of a sudden we get this vomit out. I feel like I was in a time warp, Steve. I'm looking at this. It's almost like Papa Shango's about to walk out from behind Randy Orton. Did you get them vibes, or is it just kind of me from Randy Orton vomiting on this at this point in the show?
I quite like that a comparison now. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, of course, I do remember as a young child seeing a lot of those Papa Shango
30 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the thing is, though, that's when tailing off. We're not going to be investing this, in my opinion. I found it a bit crap. I didn't like it.
I think it's okay. I think they're doing a good job of keeping the Fiend off TV. They're keeping the interest. But the problem is this storyline really suffers when Alexa's not able to be there in person, I think. And it was filler. The problem is it's getting more and more a bit macabre. I just hope it doesn't make Randy Orton look like crap because he's not been on a good run. He obviously got embarrassed at Elimination Chamber. He's on about Alexa, even though she had no part of Elimination Chamber. He's on about as if she took him out of the match. And obviously this week he's just a mess. Obviously this is going to lead to Randy Orton and Fiend down the line. Where do they go next? Do you think this feud can sort of reach the levels it's been? Because obviously the previous feuds with Randy Orton and Fiend haven't been particularly great.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had an idea, and I really hope they don't go down this idea, but Randy Orton's focus is Alexa Bliss. I do wonder if we're going to get the Fiend return at Fastlane, and the reason he returns at Fastlane is because a match is made between Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss for the pay-per-view. It would be a bit nonsense, though, I think, if that was to go down. But what do you think?
I think that'd be as bad as the time when Sister Abigail was going to be there and it was going to be Bray in a dress. I think it's got that vibe to me. I just hope not. I think it won't work. Would you be a fan on the counter, Steve, if Randy Orton gets a female counterpart as a partner and then they can maybe go into a tag team element necessarily? So I think Randy Orton should be approaching some sort of female to watch his back. That's the route I think they should be going down. Maybe a Nikki Cross, that will give us something to do on TV as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the perfect candidate for that as well. But it's just finding Randy Orton having compassion to be able to trust in someone to do so. But Randy usually likes to do a lot of his own dirty work. I mean, he has hit the RKO on Bliss already before.
Yeah, he has. That's true. Going forward, then we've obviously got this tag team match between Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, women's tag team champions, against Charlotte Flair and Asuka. This was an okay match. It did what it needed to do. They got quite a bit of time. Obviously, we got Charlotte accidentally kicking Asuka by accident. And then what then happens is Asuka gets pinned by Nia Jax, a big pinfall for the women's tag team champions. So they beat Sasha Banks and Bianca, Elimination Chamber. They're now obviously getting pinfall over Raw Women's Champion. And this obviously at the end leads to dissension. What was your thoughts of this match and the aftermath?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it didn't work for me, this match. I mean, the thing is, I think my problems have seen it too many times. For me, I just was bored of seeing the idea of Asuka and Charlotte in this tag team environment immediately. And I mean, all right, the story from early on, you could see Charlotte Flair, her head was not there. And that led to the miscommunication at the end of the match. And of course, we can start the path now of Asuka versus Charlotte again. But for me, overall, I wasn't so invested in this match. I think it was okay at best.
Yeah, I think the problem with it is it's one of them where I don't really care. Asuka's not defending the women's title. That's kind of a bit annoying. And I think the thing is, if it just leads to Charlotte and Asuka with Charlotte turning heel, they've had to move very quick from the Lacey Evans feud that's now been dropped because of her being pregnant. This was okay. I was glad the women's tag team champions retained. I look forward to them going against sort of Raquel and Dakota on NXT. I'm looking forward to that, but I'm sick of this. I hope this is done soon. If this is the WrestleMania match, Charlotte and Asuka, yeah, I'm not a fan. I'd rather they did Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, or even a triple threat, I think I'd be down for it as well, at this point. But one other quick note, just very random. Nia Jax in 2 straight nights has beat your women's champions. Should she be a number 1 contender?
Yeah, potentially. She could be, but then I guess she should be a great heel because people tend to hate her because she's got the whole idea. Sorry, I'm weeks out of date with that joke. I came out of it. What's your thoughts?
No, it's true. But the thing is, I just feel that because, like, surely she should. In one way, what I'd quite like, especially if they lost the women's tag team championships, I'd like a triple threat match at Fastlane. I'd like Asuka against Jax and Baszler, almost like what you got at Survivor Series back in 2009. Your tag team champions from Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, no, I agree. We then obviously had this. Oh, sorry, Steve. After you. Okay, we then had this fun match between Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. Really random match. Sheamus does pick up the windfall after a brogue kick. My thoughts on this were Sheamus, I don't know what he's doing here. He was meant to be challenging Drew previously. That's kind of seemed to be dropped now. But it was great to see him get the windfall. What were your thoughts on this match and what happened?
Seen it too many times. I had zero interest in this match, but I'd say it was a good match. Sheamus got, but it was no storyline progression or anything. It was momentum, and there's not really much more to say for it this week. It was a bit of a filler, unfortunately.
You notice how they didn't mention that Sheamus was the one that run down Jeff Hardy? That was totally forgotten about, and the bar brawl.
Yeah, they want you to forget they fought about 50 times already in the last year.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's move forward then. So we then had this segment backstage. Charlotte first shown backstage with Rick. Charlotte said she can't focus because of the lacy stuff. And it ends up with Charlotte and Rick kind of look like they're going to console each other. Doesn't really happen. Charlotte then basically tells Rick to go. And it's just kind of one of them things, really. It's one of the things where everyone feels sorry for Rick, even though he's meant to be the heel. What were your thoughts of this segment?
I mean, I liked it. It was interesting. This was almost like a way to try and rescue. Lacey's not there anymore. Let's try and close this off. And they had to do it somehow. So I kind of understand why they did it. But if Charlotte wants to be individual, she should stop wooing. She should stop war, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one of them things. I guess it's interesting to do. A quick note was interesting that Rick said he only wants to improve the women's division. He wants a women's champion. I don't know if that's a hint to Charlotte trying to get the women's belt and then them to join at WrestleMania. Maybe that's the only thing I could way. Anyway, I could like to see it really pay off. Would you?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen sort of down the line that way. I'm not too sure where it's going to go. I really, it's almost like a case of wait and see at this rate because I've been so lackluster with the women's singles division on Raw of late that I've almost lost hope. But I mean, with Rhea Ripley coming in, with the fact that we know we are going to get some direction going forward, I'm interested to see what they're going to do.
Definitely. We then obviously had a tag team match. It was Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke facing number one contenders, Naomi and Lana. This was okay. Naomi and Lana got the windfall. Naomi got the pinfall on Mandy Rose, so that's the right person to win. This was a quick match, but it does build up another women's tag team for the titles. What were your thoughts?
Hashtag give divas a chance. I feel like I blinked and I missed it on this one.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was very fast paced, very done within like 2 minutes. What I would say is that the right team won because they're the number one contenders, and arguably they should have had their championship opportunity already by now. But no, in this circumstance, as the number one contenders, the right team won.
Yeah, definitely. We then had another match that I consider a dream match. It was AJ Styles facing Ricochet. When this was announced, I was really, really kind of excited. They didn't get very long, only got 4 minutes, but it was really fun. AJ Styles obviously got a windfall. And this is just such a shame. I really hope that Ricochet would get much more time because I really think this guy could do something. I really would love to see these two have a longer match. But AJ Styles got the win here. And it was just a shame it was so quick. What were your thoughts?
It's been nice to see that the last two shows WWE have shown that Ricochet's had the chance to showcase his talents because Ricochet is an unbelievable talent. And Ricochet was perfect for the role they had here because, I mean, AJ Styles and Ricochet, you can watch it all day long for 15, 20 minutes at a time. But AJ continues his momentum, but this was all about Omos. And Omos wanted to do that move after the match where he picked Ricochet off the mat, held him up high and dropped him like a la Great Khali style. And Ricochet, I mean, obviously made him look like $1 million doing so. So, yeah, I mean, this segment was done what it needed to do. But I wish the focus was more on AJ and Ricochet. But obviously they're building the big man up and hopefully he's got a bright future.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good that he's getting time to do stuff because originally when he came in, he weren't allowed to do any moves. So it's great you can do it. It's interesting to see how they're treating him. I just hope he's going to be a big show rather than a giant silver because I think they're really sort of protective and letting him do stuff. But the fact he's been physical, he was physical at the Chamber. He's now physical again in this spot. I really would like to see him have some sort of singles match eventually because this guy, obviously, ever since Raw Underground, he's been a presence. He's always been kind of around. And this guy's got potential. I think the look, he's got a really good look to be intimidating. I think they could do something definitely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, obviously, he's been training obviously quite a lot, I guess, since those days. So hopefully in the next sort of 3 to 6 months, he'll be ready to get involved in mix it up in the ring.
Yeah, he will, hopefully. We then got this main event. So this is obviously Braun Strowman's first match since October. And this was to get a number one kind of contendership. It was to basically decide whether it would be a singles match or a triple threat next week. And this was obviously really, really good. It was very hard hitting. In my opinion, this match made Bobby Lashley look $1 million. Lashley was able to get the pinfall here. He's going to be on a one-on-one match with The Miz next week for the WWE title. What were your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, almost really, I felt that this was almost like a squash match, if you want, because, I mean, Lashley kicked out of Braun Strowman, finishing move there. But then literally, Lashley dominated for most parts of this and put him away with the spear. Lashley, one-on-one next week. This is Paul Heyman booking the way this is done. Lashley, a case of should this guy go to the main event? It's almost when can we put the WWE Championship on this guy? He's ready. He's literally, there's a fire in this guy's eyes that I have not seen for a long time. Probably even since he was carrying the championship in Impact. I've not seen it since he's come back to WWE. But this Lashley is a beast. He's a monster. He's unstoppable. This is the reason why the Hurt Business never needed Keith Lee. Bobby Lashley is the man.
I agree. I think this guy physically looks like he looks like he's going to be unstoppable. This is guy for me. He is your next world champion. I just think they've done such a great job of building him up. The way they dropped the belt and the way he's recovered the next night, this guy's ready. Obviously, this is the big main event for next week. Massive fan of them announcing something to look forward to for next week. And do you think next week is the impossible is going to happen? Are we going to have Miz walk out with the belt, or is it the obvious that Bobby Lashley's going to win? What's your prediction?
Well, if Miz can find a way to have a screwy finish, because I believe he was on his phone at one point, so maybe he's trying to get some help from some format, someone that might try and help him, protect him, do a run-in next week. That'll be the only way he retains. If there's a straight-up one-on-one match, this is going to be a squash match. It's going to be dominate, and Lashley will become your champion. So it depends which way WWE wants to book it. One way or another, Lashley, I say, will be the champion by the end of Fastlane.
No, I agree. I think if we're looking at the prediction for me, the only way that Lashley doesn't win this match by pinfall is if Drew comes back and interferes and it leads to a triple threat at Fastlane. Or the other route they could go down, they may want to do a Miz-Lashley match as a singles match at Fastlane, and then they may do Drew and Sheamus as another match. But I think WrestleMania now, I'll put my money on it. Again, I've not put a bet on it this time because I can't, but I think WrestleMania, one of your matches for night one or night two main event is going to be Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, and it's going to be built for Drew to get the belt back in front of a crowd, which is what they wanted to do last year. For me, if that match happens, I'll be a massive fan of Lashley holding on to the belt. This guy could be as dominant as Roman Reigns. This guy has been built so good, and I think this guy needs to go on a winning run. I don't want him to win the belt just for 1 month and then drop it to Drew. What's your thoughts?
That's almost the thing. I've got to the point if Lashley wins it, I want him to keep it. I don't want him to lose it so quickly. This is Lashley's time. It really feels like this is the time to push Bobby Lashley to the moon and see where he can get. I had a conversation actually with Bonafide Heat very recently, and he actually said to me he would like Lashley as champion against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. It's like one of the few dream matches that are left. I mean, if you can save Drew and Sheamus for the WrestleMania as well to have their program, maybe Drew and Lashley can be somewhere down the line, a big event like SummerSlam or even following after that. But it feels to me now, it feels like it's Lashley's time, but I wouldn't be surprised actually. I think that if you're going to do a safe pick, I think that you probably are looking that, like you said there, that Lashley wins the title and then Drew will win it at WrestleMania.
Yeah, definitely. I think the good thing about this Raw, if I'm going to give it an overall final thought, so I get your Steve, was it was really, I enjoyed it. I know there's been a lot of criticism online for the community and stuff, but for me, it was far more entertaining. We had a lot of good matches, and they generally built stuff. The storylines were kind of exciting. If you know the silliness of Randy Orton and the vomit and the other stuff, for me, it was a fun show. If I was going to give this a score, I'd go for 8 out of 10. I was really kind of impressed with it. I think it did a great job of following on sort of the night previously at the pay-per-view. What was your score and final thought, Steve?
View. I really enjoyed the storyline throughout the evening, the way that played out. But what I would say is there was a lot of filler in the show for me as well. There was probably about an hour portion of this show where if this was like SmackDown, you could take that filler away. This show would have been, like you said, like those high numbers. But for me, for that reason alone, I've got to take it a bit further down. So I'm actually going to go for a 6.5 out of 10 for me this week.
Yeah, definitely. Have you got anything else you want to add before we wrap up the show this evening?
No, I think that it's been an interesting Raw. It's certainly been an interesting couple of days. There's been a lot of talking points in the wrestling community. Certainly fun topics regarding the championship. We thought it was a formality. Drew was keeping it to Mania. Drew wasn't even on this show, which he was selling, obviously, not losing at the Chamber. The only one thing I would say is a massive nitpick on this show, and it's something I want to see more often. Matches like the Elimination Chamber, the next night on Raw, not one person sold the fact they've been in that chamber, that they were hurt and they were injured. I want to see more of that in wrestling because it takes complete credibility away from the match the night before. People turn around and say it's this demonic structure that changes you for months and years. Your career is never the same. I didn't see that. Jeff Hardy was bouncing around in his entrance like nothing had happened. So for me, it's a nitpick, but it's something I want to see change in wrestling. I want people to have more, put more believability in these structures like the Chamber and Hell in a Cell.
I agree with you. I think that's an excellent point. How can I top the show after that? That's the perfect way to end this show. This has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Just before we end the show, Steve, please tell everyone what you got coming on your channel this week, besides our SmackDown review on Saturday.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. What playlists have been a big part of this week? I've been making sure to go and check out the playlist. The Q&As, Ask SCW are on there. SCW interviews, you can check out everything in bulk so you never miss out on anything. Also going to add the Raw and SmackDowns that we do together on there, so also people can check that out there. Also, I've got SCW interviews coming up this week and the next day or two with Bonafide Heat. It's a fantastic interview. Recommend people to go and check it out. The latest Q&A is already available, and more videos will be dropping in the week, including the one which has been uploaded today, why Bobby Lashley should be WWE champion. Go and check it out. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for letting me plug it as always, George.
No problem. It sounds like a fascinating watch. I really appreciate your time coming on again. Thank you to everybody that is watching the videos. We've had quite a few comments recently. We are on the road now to 60 subs. So really great work, everyone, guys. I really appreciate all the interaction. Please continue to leave comments and I'll obviously interact back. But this has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling, joined by Steve from SCW. Yeah, and thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't, like and share and subscribe. And let's get comment in the comments below. Let's see what we think is going to happen. Let me know below who you think is going to win. Is Miz going to win the title and keep hold of the title next Monday? Or is Bobby Lashley going to win? We need to know, so let me know below. Thank you for watching.